Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Jessica Gibson from Kaleidoscopes and Polka Dots. Oh, this is just bouncy. I'll just put you up here. Today I'm going to go over a few creature pics, magical pics, cute magical pics. I'll figure it out. I love witches. Witches are my favorite creatures, so I have a few witchy recommendations and a few vampire recommendations. Oh, and I forgot my other book. I'll go get it later. So to begin, let me start off by giving you a book I recently read. It is magical, it is witchy, and it is a romantic comedy. And I am talking about Jenna McKnight's Witch in the House. It follows the story of Jade and Mason. Mason is a detective. He works for insurance companies to make sure that the insurance company isn't getting defrauded from millions of dollars, which is a very honorable position. He unfortunately goes into the story thinking that Jade is defrauding the insurance company. Jade is not at all defrauding the insurance company, as she is very self-sufficient. She is a witch and she does a great deal of business as a witch. Now, yes, it's a very predictable story. It's a romantic comedy, so as you can imagine, there's like all sorts of little dramas, and it's really fun and cute and magical, and I highly recommend it if you want one magical light read. The next one, it is Save Me by Jenny Elliott. This is one of the many soon read picks of 2015. The battery ran out. Okay. I had issues with this book. It is a witchy story. I gave it like 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads because it just wasn't my cup of tea. I'm including it here so that you have an idea of what to expect if you pick it up, because it definitely has its flaws. So the story follows Kara and David, and there's this malignant energy in the air from the get-go, and Jenny Elliott did a really great job at developing the atmosphere, the really dark, hazy atmosphere that you would find in a seaside town. Oh, it's so beautiful the way she describes it at first. So I thought, you know, the fact that Jenny took her time in developing that story and that atmosphere was a great idea at first, because I mean, like, while I was halfway through, I thought, is it ever gonna speed up? And it did, and it was towards the end where everything just kind of beautifully came together and was resolved. I'm not a big fan of those kind of stories, but I don't know, it might be for you, but it wasn't for me. And the witch wasn't developed at all. I really, given that the first word that is up here is witches, I really wanted there to be more of them. Whether they're good or bad, I'm not picky. I just want a good witch, and I want her to be developed, and I want her powers to be explained. But they aren't, so it was very sad. Now, a story that is adorable is Bras and Broomsticks by Sarah Mlynowski. I love this story. It follows the story of, what is her name? Rachel. Rachel comes from a big line of witches. Unfortunately, she is not given the gift of witchcraft in this book. This is part of a quartet, I think. Her little sister is witty and smart and quite developed for her age, and quite mature for her age as well. She is provided with the gift of witchcraft, which is adorable, and she handled it really gracefully at first, but then Rachel gets to her and starts to convince her to use her witchcraft, even though her mom put strict regulations on when and how she could use her witchcraft. First, she has to learn, then she can produce. Yes, again, it's very formulaic. Rachel has her flaws, but she's 14, so I kind of give that to her. If you want something cute and screamingly funny, then I highly recommend this book. Oh, another story that is about a teenage creature is Jayne Jones' Worst Vampire Ever. Where to begin? Jayne Jones is a vampire, and she was made into a vampire during the 1930s or so. Unfortunately, something went wrong when she was being converted. She does need blood, but it has to be a very rare type of blood, and it's called Bombay blood or something. Otherwise, she gets diarrhea and vomiting and all sorts of really bad things. Let's describe Jayne. Jayne, to me, sounded like a Daria. Very sarcastic and witty and kind of nonchalant about being a social butterfly. But she does have her needs as a teenager, and she constantly reminds you that she's a teenager. That part really annoyed me. She was born in the 1930s, and as somebody who has lived as long as she has, I would assume that she doesn't exactly behave like a teenage vampire. It doesn't fly with me. It doesn't make sense. There's gotta be some development, and apparently there isn't. You get stuck in that mentality. Sometimes her humor really annoyed me, unfortunately, because it just seemed out of place. The story is headed in a more serious direction, then she says something about, yeah, you'd never guess that vampires can actually do this. It wasn't the right time and place, you know? But it was a really lovely story about family. Kind of saw it as Daria meets Full House because of the family aspect, meets an Olsen twin mystery. Because it just seemed so arbitrary. There's this one clue that leads to this, that leads to that, and then resolution. But still, it was fun. Now, a wonderful book that has a vampire and that was published by Swoon Reads is Velvet by Temple West. Caitlin is the main character, and she lost both of her parents at the beginning of the story, like before the story begins. She's lost her parents and she's grieving, and so she's upset, and she's moving to a small town, I think in Connecticut, with her aunt. Initially, she doesn't take well to moving to this small town and to her aunt, and she just resents everything, and you would expect it, and it's done really well. And so she storms out of the house as soon as she can, and she ends up getting herself into a bit of trouble. Except she doesn't know it. She has no idea that she's gotten herself into trouble because it has to do with some negative force, a malicious character that you can't really see. And Adrian comes to her rescue. She thinks that all that's happened is just a storm, but no, there's more to the story. They get very close. They're not supposed to fall in love because mortals and vampires don't intermingle. It's against the coven. So, turmoil arises. Alone, this is a lovely story. But thank goodness it's going to be a trilogy. I can't wait for the story to develop. It's really beautiful and romantic and thoughtful and funny. And I just loved this book so much. Highly recommend. I have a big blog post on it. I need to start blogging more. Now, let's move on to some Audible. So at the beginning of the year, Audible was having a big sale. They do that to you. They do that. And I've caught on to Audible. They usually put the first book of a series up for sale. And so that alone is enough to get you hooked. And that was indeed what happened to me. And what I'm talking about is the Souls Trilogy. If you like magical realism with a bit of history and mystery and a beautiful heroine who is smart and independent and not afraid to stand up for herself, then I think you would love the Souls Trilogy. Jennifer Aketa is the narrator, and she did a phenomenal job. There are so many different characters in the story, in the trilogy. She molds her voice. She enunciates, she does everything so perfectly and brilliantly, and you just get sucked in, and you actually learn her enunciations, so she doesn't have to say, Philippe said this, or Miriam said this. You absolutely know who Philippe and Miriam are. My favorite book, and actually the one book that I think is kind of a filler book, or could be a filler book, is the second one. But it's my favorite one because that's the one where we get to meet all sorts of crazy creatures. They are so fun. There's this king who is absolutely creepy, and Jennifer Aketa gives him the creepiest voice. I could have never come up with that. Enough gushing. I love it. Maybe I'll do a more in-depth thing in the future because that so far has been my favorite trilogy. Another really cute and quirky read is Ghouls Russian by H.P. Mallory. Oh my goodness. This book is narrated by Kate Rudd, the same narrator as The Fault in Our Stars. And unfortunately she didn't, just the thing that really caught me off guard. She did a good job, I should say that. She did a good job except for the main character. The main character sounds like a Southern belle instead of a California girl. And because of that, I had trouble with it. The main character's name is Peyton. So she moves after her divorce to New Orleans because one of her deceased aunts left her a big mansion, which is basically falling apart. So she has to get it redone and stuff. But she's staying in the house while it's getting redone and stuff. And a month into her stay or her move, she meets this man, and he is quite charming, Ryan. And then they start up a really feisty relationship, friendship, and then of course they become a lot closer than just friends, and it's adorable. But the house, little do we know, is haunted, and it's like a month and a half into her stay that she realizes this, because he haunts her dreams, and he is charming and has a French accent. That is a good read if you're into the cute and quirky. I think that is definitely a book for you. The last book that I'm going to talk about is a very nostalgic read for me, and that is Party Games by R.L. Stine. I was so excited about reading this book. It's not amazing, but it's fun, and yes, a little suspenseful for someone like me. This follows the story of Rachel, a young girl, and then there's Brandon Fear from the Fear family. He's filthy rich, very, very brilliant, and he has organized a very eventful birthday. Well, the eventful birthday turns into quite the birthday for everyone involved, including Brandon. Really cool story. Honestly, I really liked it, and I don't think I would have liked it as much as I did had I not been a fan from the get-go. I missed R.L. Stine's writing. I was a huge fan when I was a young girl. So that is it for my magical haunting recommendations. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I will talk to you very soon, and until then, have a great day. Bye!